Hello, everybody. Welcome to Weekend Sports. Today we're going to talk about the recent running back news, them wanting new contracts and special treatment out in the NFL since they are not getting paid to how they feel they should be. Overall, the market, right, is not as important to I think, the regular NFL GM or owner as it is to the player because there's always so many coming out of college.
Yeah, you can, what do we always say is that you don't pay a running back. You'll have them for 3 or 4 years. You have them for their rookie contract. By that time, they're in their, late 20s, 26, 27. If they're lucky, they'll sign one good contract.
Yeah.
But the majority of that, they have to know they're the most often injured position, right?
Yep.
DeAndre Swift was, I think for the first few seasons, he didn't even play a full season.
Nope.
And there's always some young guy coming up, some 21-year-old coming up out of college that you could sign to a rookie contract. It's cheaper. And you just, it's a hard go for them. Very few running backs are good enough to sign for a big deal.
Yeah. Right. I mean, they said Todd Gurley was the last one to kind of get that.
Travis Henry.
He ruined it for everybody else because he got injured.
And blew his knee out.
And then, they ended up having to pay him all this stuff for nothing. And I think it's kind of just, coming back to reality, and they don't want to admit that. I mean, this is one of the few times where I do side with the owners in the sense that it's just good business, and I mean, you don't want to pay these guys,
any more than you have to.
Invest $10 million a year in them.
It's shown by analytics, that they are the most expendable position basically out there. Like you were saying, even the best running backs have a shelf life of about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
By the time they reach their late 20s, Le'Veon Bell.
Travis Henry, Le'Veon Bell.
Bell's the best example of that.
Saquon Barkley.
Because he went and sat out to prove that a team could not play that well without him. And then on his next team, he absolutely sucked.
Right.
And his team still had a winning record that he left.
Right.
Yeah.
So because it's about the offensive line is far more important. Putting the money into that benefits the entire offense.
Yep.
You could put an average running back behind a great offensive line, and he's going to give you, a good run per carry. You're going to protect your quarterback. It just makes it's common sense. The question is, how is this going to affect the position from the high school level and college level? Are kids going to stop wanting to play running back? Those kids that think they have a shot to play in the NFL, are they going to want to be a running back knowing what they're not going to get paid?
Most players, right, they always had, you see a lot of the bigger players sometimes in college swap positions from what they initially played. Like Travis Kelce, did you know he was a quarterback before he was a tight end?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like you switch typically. Like right now, Debo, I think Debo was a running back before they basically used him as a wide receiver.
Right.
Right.
But how many of those players are out there like that? Probably Kelce knew, I'm not going to make the NFL as a quarterback, but I can make it as a tight end. All these running backs, which used to be a very valued position, are now going to be going into college going, the next Barry Sanders is going to say, I don't want to play running back because I don't want to play it. And you aren't going to see those records broken for quite a while.
Yeah. Because that's the one thing, like you were mentioning earlier, a good offensive line. You could look at this year with Jamal Williams, an average running back who breaks a record behind a really, really good O-line.
Right. I mean, the Frank Gores and Adrian Petersons aren't going to be around anymore. That's those type of players that played until their mid-30s, but they were also very smart, and they took the contracts they could, and they didn't complain, and they weren't big. They were big team players, so they didn't care if their roles were reduced, and they played a long career. Yep. But that isn't going to be the case anymore. Running backs are going to be out of the league by the time they're 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And I feel the same way about wide receivers too. There's very few wide receivers out there that want to pay $20+ million for it.
Once you
They're in the same group, if you ask me.
right, so they got to make their money, and
Yeah.
taking their side of it, I understand what they're saying,
Yeah,
but it isn't. There's going to be few and far between that get that money that people
Yeah.
are going to be willing to
I
pay.
think
that.
most running backs
And-
are usually out of the league by the time before they're even 30.
And I think the market's coming back. I mean, they've always complained in the past. Oh, well, the market says we own this or we made this. Well, what if the market tells you that you're making too much?
Yeah.
And
Well,
they don't want to listen to that.
And I think the NFL is the easiest league to bring the money back because you have such a high pool of players coming from college. You could replace a whole team if you felt like it in
Sure.
one offseason.
right.
Sure.
So you have the
Well,
options.
That's the
to
Rams
just
are
cut.
doing. From what I understood, I was reading about what they're going almost total youth. They're keeping Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, and Aaron Donald.
Well, that's because no
And
one
then
wants
the rest
Stafford.
of the team is going to be almost new
Yep.
They tried to get
Yeah.
rid of
and
Stafford,
cheap.
They're actually trying to shop Stafford.
Oh yeah, he is not.
but he is
agreeing.
not
He's
leaving.
like saying, "Sorry, you're stuck with me, and you're going to pay me what you owe me."
He's 35
And
years
I don't
old.
blame him for that. This is his final years. He's paid his dues. He got them a Super Bowl. He don't care.
No.
And I wouldn't either. I don't blame him. Get your money.
That's
He sees the writing on the wall.
And that might be the one thing. The NFL might be the first out of the major sports leagues to potentially lower their contracts for their players because the MLB is going up ridiculously high. Why would you spend $50 million on a pitcher?
Right.
Right? NHL slightly is probably the slowest growing out of all the sports. You don't really
Yeah.
hear too much going on with outrageous NHL contracts. And then the NBA, they get outrageous with their contracts.
No, it's
Yeah.
kind of funny about the NHL where, they're superstars. Their best players in the league probably make a little over $10 million a year.
15. I think 15 or 60 million is
What's
the
the
highest
highest
paid.
Sidney
paid.
Crosby?
It was tased before his contract ended. It was at 16. I think Crosby's at 15,
Okay.
around there. But it's
And he ain't even really
It's in the
worth
teens.
15 anymore.
it's in the teens of millions, which is still a lot of money. But compared to other major sports where your best players are making 50 mil a year,
Right.
all other sports are 50 mil a year. But
Right.
the NHL isn't even close to 20,
Yeah.
Right.
and they have a set cap that doesn't move.
The NHL has always been behind the times. Their owners, the way they market that game.
I don't know if that's really behind the times though when it comes to money wise.
No, it might not be, but I'm just saying that they've always been.
It's what the market would bear. I mean,
right, and
The-
they
the
have
NFL
smaller
the
market.
I don't
NFL
care what anyone says. We're getting the NFL is close to being capped out. They're not.
Yep.
You can't
Yeah.
pay these people much more than what you're paying them.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, even. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
I think that they're ready to say, "Hey,
and there'll be backlash.
Well, that's
sorry."
the thing. Same thing.
But
But
at least a quarterback has a reasonable chance to play till he's in his mid to late.
I've
30s.
told you I wouldn't pay Jared Goff $40+ million a
you
year.
probably, if you want to keep them, that's what you
No,
got
I
to
don't
pay. 40
think we need
between
to.
40
I
and
think-
45.
I think this year's a huge year for him. If he brings us to the playoffs and a playoff win, he will get paid. He will get at least a 5-year deal from us, I believe, at around $40 million a year.
Yeah.
If
If he plays well. If he doesn't play
If
well,
not, they got
welcome
Hendon
in Hendon
Hooker,
Hooker.
and they're going to be looking at that guy all year long and saying, "Okay, how's he developing? What's he look like? Is he someone that can take over this team? Because what the hell? Why not? Why not? If he's even close to what Jared Goff, and he certainly gives you an element Jared Goff doesn't give you.
He's more athletic.
Right. I'm not better arm, more athletic. But Jared Goff is superior as far as game management, as far as knowing how to win. Jared Goff is I would say a very good quarterback when he has the team around him. And he relies solely on the fact that he has to have an offensive line because he is not mobile.
No.
So
No.
we're gonna, and Hendon Hooker might be a little different than that.
yeah, and like I said, that's what's going to happen with even the running back stuff. It's going to affect the contracts of everybody. It might not even just affect one sport.
Right.
It might affect all sports, and that is what's going to be the most interesting thing to develop out of this. Because I think Saquon was close to his deal. Somehow, a couple of the other running backs got their deals. Gibbs is going to be an interesting one when his time is up, depending on how he plays. Is he going to be like a Debo? And are you going to give him the money because he's a dual
Jahmyr
threat?
Gibbs is going to play his rookie contract out and probably go somewhere else.
It depends on the kind of player he is, I think. But again, like we were talking about, all these people seem to be targeting and saying at the most, you do not want to sign these guys beyond being 30 years old. You do not. You get that they get
They're
one big contract. They get
Yep,
one.
they all
big,
do.
All running backs are one ACL
right.
tear away from never playing
Exactly.
again.
Quarterbacks are the only ones that can get multiple contracts because they'll play. Some of them can play into their late 30s, but offensive linemen, wide receivers, defensive backs, they're running backs. They're all usually done or in their twilight of their career by the time they're 30, and nobody wants to pay them. And I don't blame them.
Hey, quickly, 5-minute discussion. What should the Washington Commanders change their name to?
You want to go back to the football team?
Washington football team. Actually, I was thinking the Turtleheads would have been a great name for the Washington Turtles.
No,
I would honestly, I would go with Red Tails or Red Wolves. Those are the two I would go with.
I would say name it after my the best name ever for an NBA team, the Washington Bullets. These days, it's it's
they wouldn't allow
they
that.
wouldn't allow that.
But they certainly could come up with something
Well,
better.
you keep
than
the red. You just go.
Commanders.
You go, or you just say the Washington Skins.
Even Washington fans were basically
Skins.
like when that name
Skins.
came out, they're like,
that would be weird. You'd have a lot of weird.
well, Magic Johnson bought the team, right? And
Yeah.
Did he?
No, yeah, he's part of the
an
ownership
investment
group.
group,
okay.
and they're like, we're changing this name. This name is terrible.
So,
Right.
but they
I
might
mean,
go.
it
They
is.
might
We
go
all
with
know
Red
that.
Tails or
I
Red
don't know
Wolves,
who is.
or they
it's
might
just-
go back to the Senators. They might take the baseball team.
It
name.
is astounding to me.
I like the Washington football team. That's pretty cool.
I kind of did too.
Yeah.
I've learned to like that because it's
It's
so
like
generic.
You're a team with no
And
name.
So that's actually kind of cool.
But we'll see what happens.
Then you
with
put the WFT on there. And
Yeah,
That's close to what the
yeah.
WTF.
Washington Hogs.
that could be another one. I think if you keep red in the name, you bring back red, and go off that like Red Tails or Red Wolves or
There are
Red
a
Hogs.
number of teams that you could. I thought they could have kept their colors and we used the old Redskin helmet with the spear and called themselves the Warriors, the Washington Warriors.
That's
would
a
have been great
possibility
name.
too.
And they could have kept. Do you remember that old helmet? That was a great helmet.
Yeah, it was.
And I will tell you one thing: there isn't many better color schemes in football than the Washington Redskins. They have
Oh yeah,
cool colors.
yeah, they do.
I hope they don't change those. They have.
But-
I mean, I
They
love
probably
that
won't.
old stuff.
I'm kind of partial to the Minnesota Vikings, and our Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
But we've gone off.
Yes.
Off
It's
track.
okay. I'm sorry, we went off topic a little
Well,
bit.
But that's all right. We filled time.
Yep, with that being said, though, right, if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, share the video. Until next time, hope to see everybody soon.